Well, did you hear the president after the government reopened yesterday? He was saying we need to find common ground. That during his remarks on the shutdown and the debt ceiling deal. But some of his comments targeted certain groups, sparking a firestorm. Here is exactly what he had to say.
And now that the government is reopened and this threat to our economy is removed, all of us need to stop focusing on the lobbyists and the bloggers and the talking heads on radio and the professional activists who profit from conflict and focus on what the majority of Americans sent us here to do.
So what do you think about that? Let's talk about it with Judy Miller, a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter and author. Kirsten Powers is a columnist for the Daily Beast. Both are Fox News contributors. Judy, he was clearly reading that off the teleprompter. I mean, this wasn't something that he ad-libbed. He clearly wanted to make that point. Who are these bloggers and pundits that he's so upset with?
Right. Well, this is kind of vintage Obama, and it's getting to be a little mystifying because on the shutdown, the president won big time. I mean, look at the drop in the Republican numbers. He should have been proclaiming victory. He should have been singing a Kumbaya moment, wrapping his arms around Rush Limbaugh and saying, come on over for a beer. But instead, he singles people out who disagree with him. He says, he suggests yet again, bloggers are not journalists. Fox News is not a news network. He didn't say that this time. People who disagree with him are not somehow patriotic Americans who want what's best for the country. I don't know why he does that. It does not work to his advantage.
Kirsten, is this a case of the president being petty in victory?
Yeah. I mean, look, but it's more than that, because this is something that we've talked about a lot that he does, where he sort of attacks journalism. And bloggers are journalists. They're a form of journalism. And for him to pretend that the problems are somehow caused by the fact that we have differing views and people, blogging, reporting about different ideas has somehow caused this problem is actually incorrect. That's not, bloggers in no way caused the government to shut down. So I don't know why he chooses to do this, except for the fact that I think he really does believe that journalists are a problem.
Well, it used to be in his first term that most of his blame, I guess, was cast on the Bush administration. And now that he's in his second term, maybe he has to turn to bloggers and the media. But that brings up another question, and that is this report out of the Committee to Protect Journalists, which suggests that the Obama administration, here's a quote from the report, or the author of the report, the Obama administration's aggressive war on leaks and its determined efforts to control information that the news media needs to hold government accountable for its actions are without equal since the Nixon administration. That from a guy who actually edited the Washington Post at the time of the Nixon administration, Leonard Downey Jr. What do you make of that, Kirsten?
This is a real problem with the Obama administration. Their hostility towards the idea of dissent, to the idea of a free press, the things that they have done that we've talked at length about, including targeting journalists at the AP and here at Fox News. And I really think that this president has a real problem with people criticizing him and expressing dissent. And rather than understanding that part of a free media means that you're going to have to take the good with the bad. You get all of your laudatory press. Didn't hear him complaining when everybody was hailing him as, the next savior. But when they actually are doing critical reporting on you, then you attack them.
Yeah, it seems to be an administration that is particularly thin-skinned, Judy. And, by and large, he's gotten pretty favorable press coverage. But these two comments stood out in this report. Ann Compton of ABC News said he is the least transparent of the 7 presidents I've covered in terms of how he does his daily business. This from the administration that promised it would be the most transparent in history. And then from David Sanger of the New York Times, your former paper, Judy, Sanger says this is the most closed, control freak administration I've ever covered. What do you think?
Oh, it's really true. Anyone who works in national security knows this. If you're not willing to parrot the narrative, the storyline, you're not going to get called back for a backgrounder. You're not going to get called into the White House for that tete-a-tete with the head of national security or national intelligence. They play hardball when it comes to disseminating information. They want it out their way. And you know, John, this has policy implications. This administration has promised to support a media shield law to prevent journalists from going to jail, to protect our sources. Bloggers are covered by that law. If he starts to separate them out, there's a legitimate question about whether or not he's going to want them covered and provide them the protection we all need against his administration.
Well, and you know about journalistic freedom and journalistic protection just better than just about any of us. Kirsten, I don't know. I mean, what's the net effect? Is he trying to control? Is the administration trying to control the coverage and make themselves look better in the process? Is that what this is all about, or is it just a thin-skinned president?
Well, he is thin-skinned. I think even people who support him, including David Axelrod, had pointed that out to him when he was thinking of running for president, that was one of the liabilities, is that he's very thin-skinned. But look, all White Houses want to control the media to a certain extent and want to get the best coverage they can. But there are some lines that people typically don't cross. And I think, Mike McCurry was quoted in a Politico story on this last year saying, I would never have thought to do the things that they do, and so that's a lot of it, is that they are just not really doing their duty. Remember, they work for us. They work for the American people. They're actually supposed to respond to inquiries, and they're treating it as though they get to say only the good things and hold back the bad things.
Very good point. We'll come back to this topic another time, I'm sure.